मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप गदामह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातान् सगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चना गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामो 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 हरे हरे. So we'll be covering the third canto, 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the two doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, Jaya Vijaya, cursed by the sages. I'm so sorry I don't have a PowerPoint today, and I will go over the, I will start off with just talking about the, how the texts have been combined to make it easier for us to understand all the 37 shlokas texts that we have in this chapter. So we start off with, by now the sages have both recognized and acknowledged their fault. Basically, they have acknowledged that they have cursed Jaya and Vijaya, and they have also expressed their new appreciation for Lord Narayana, Lord Narayana's beautiful form. And we know that the four Kumaras, how they just smelt the fragrance of Tulsi at the lotus feet of Lord Narayana, and so they actually became from impersonalists to personalists, and now they are appreciating the beautiful form of Lord Narayana, which they had come to understand as completely spiritual. Now, how will the most important part here is how would Lord respond? So in the text 1 to 12, what we see is the Lord replies to the four Kumaras. The Lord expresses actually his love for his devotees. So it starts with 1 to 12. I'll just do a couple translations and explain this a little more. Lord Brahma said, after thus congratulating the sages for the nice words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose abode is in the kingdom of God, spoke as follows. So what did he speak? That's the most important part here. How will the Lord respond to their supplication? His first words, and everybody would want to know what did the Lord say. He said, these attendants of mine, Jaya and Vijaya, have committed a great offense against you because of ignoring me. O great sages, I approve the punishment that you are devoted to me have meted out to them. The disrespect shown by my attendants has actually been displayed by me, because the doormen are my servitors. So he actually takes the whole fault on him. He says that if they have committed anything, it's because of me. And I take this to be an offense by myself. Therefore, I seek your forgiveness for the incident that has arisen. So this is the first thing that the Lord said. So he says he requests them. He says, "Oh great sages, please approve of the punishment that you who are devoted to me. I approve that you have actually punished them. But the reason behind the whole thing is me, because they are my servants." So he says a wrong act committed by servants leads people in general to blame his master. Just a spot of white leprosy or on any part of the body pollutes all of the skin. So he actually is putting the whole thing on himself, and he doesn't, because he is the whole and we are just a part. So it continues that anyone in the entire world, even down to the Chandala who lives by cooking and eating the flesh of a dog, is immediately purified if he takes bath and hearing through the ear of glorification of my name, fame, etc. Now you have realized me without doubt. Therefore, I will not hesitate to lop off my own arm if its conduct is found hostile to you. So the Lord here is explaining, we get to know about humble position of Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is taking the entire blame on himself. Now, Prabhupada says very nice in the purport. He says, anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness in all sincerity, even if he is not very advanced in good behavior, is actually very purified. A devotee can be recruited from any sections of human society. So, this actually reiterates, how anybody can become a Brahmana. He says that a devotee can be recruited from any section of human society, although it's not expected that everyone in all segments of society is well behaved. So, as stated in this verse in many places in Bhagavad Gita, even if one is not born in a Brahmana family, or even if he is born in a family of Chandalas, if he simply takes to Krishna consciousness, then he is automatically purified. So the question is not that the person has to be born in a Brahmana family to actually become Krishna conscious. If he becomes Krishna conscious, automatically he gets the qualification to do anything. So the way the weight of offense supposedly committed by the doorkeepers are accepted by their master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead here. Now, Srila Prabhupada uses this example in his purport to text 2 to illustrate. He actually is illustrating the reciprocation between Lord and his devotees. Even when a living entity is promoted to Vaikuntha Loka, there is still the chance that he may commit offenses. But the difference is that when one is in Vaikuntha Loka, even if by chance one commits an offense, he is protected by the Lord. So, that way, we are protected here too. But again, here Prabhupada very clearly mentions that, here it's our independence. We've gone against Krishna and we are here. But if a person commits offense there, Krishna takes everything on himself. The Lord understood that the trouble was due to his, he actually understands that due to his lotus feet not being seen by the sages, and therefore he wanted to please them by personally going there. The Lord is so merciful that even if there is some impediments, if there is a trouble for the devotee, he himself manages matters in such a way that the devotee is not bereft by having an audience at his lotus feet. So he actually is so merciful. He actually walked to the sages and he accepted this. So that's basically comprising of 1 to 12. That's the Hare Krishna.
Libraries and schools and hospitals and also stores, things like that, and we can do
Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mataji. Vedavit Prabhu muted his microphone. Go ahead.
Thank you. So that's the main part for 1 to 12, and he says that everything is on me, and continuing from there. So some of the important points, some more important points of this is in the purport of text 5, Srila Prabhupada cautions us to act with care. A devotee should always see that the Vaishnava qualities increase with the advancement of Krishna consciousness. A devotee should be blameless because any offense by the devotee is a scar on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have to be very careful. The Prabhupada says that even if even though a devotee commits a mistake, he should remember that the blame actually is going to go on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Vaishnava's behavior should be that way. A devotee's duty is to be always conscious in his dealings with others, especially with another devotee of the Lord. So he says that that's the reason we have these Vaishnava etiquette books. So Prabhupada reiterates, he continuously tells that we have to be very careful with our dealings with, especially with other Vaishnavas. Now, continuing to describe his full dedication to his devotees, the Lord said, anyone in the entire world, even down to the Chandala who lives by cooking and eating flesh of a dog, is immediately purified. So I just want to reiterate this, such an important point. Chandala who lives by cooking and eating the flesh of a dog is immediately purified if he takes bath in hearing through the ear the glorification of my name, fame, etc. Now you have realized me without doubt. So he's very clear. He says it could be any situation a person is. If a person is having a bath and hearing about Krishna's names and fame, then he can be absolutely purified. The Lord expresses his gratitude to Kumaras who had recently become his devotees. So here again it mentions he has recently become, because they were self-realized souls for a long time, they were impersonalists, and now they have become devotees. Now how he obliged he must have felt to his gatekeepers, who had been directly serving him for such a long time. The Lord's greatness of teachers was indirectly instructing the Kumaras and sparking their realization about the depth of love he feels for his devotees. So this is a wonderful way that Krishna is showing, Narayana is showing that how how much love he feels for the devotees who serve him. Again, they became aware of the offense that they had committed toward the Lord's great gatekeepers by hearing Lord Narayana glorifying Jaya and Vijaya. The sages felt even more remorseful. They were really, they had started feeling really bad that they actually cursed them, because they realized that how great Jaya and Vijaya are, because Krishna explains about their greatness, and he says, it's not their mistake, it's my mistake. Lord Narayana then credited the sacredness of his feet to the fact that he serves his devotees. Because I am the servitor of my devotees, my lotus feet have become so sacred that they immediately wipe out all sin. And I have acquired such a disposition that the goddess of fortune does not leave me, even though I have no attachment for her. And others praise her beauty and observe sacred vows to secure from her even a slight fever. So, Srila Prabhupada's purports to 6 and 7 actually enter the heart of the Lord's mood. So, he is not attached, but he says that because I am the servitor of my devotees, my lotus feet has become so sacred. And he's giving every thing to his devotees, and he wants to protect us. Anything wrong. So I personally understood is anything that is right and nice, he puts everything on his devotees. Anything that's wrong, he takes it to himself. So if one takes to Krishna consciousness with all seriousness, he is to be understood as already purified, and Krishna is ready to give him protection by all means. The Lord assures herein that he is ready to give protection to his devotees, even if there is need to cut off part of his own body. So that's an amazing part. He says that I can even cut off a part of my body just to give protection to his devotees. The Lord also admits herein, he says that although he certainly has the quality that anyone who receives a slight particle of the dust of his lotus feet becomes at once a great personality, this greatness is due to his affection for his devotees. So we can see how affectionate Krishna is to his devotees. In Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Leela 24 to 42, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami glorifies the Lord's qualities. Krishna's transcendental qualities of opulence, sweetness and mercy are perfect and full. As far as Krishna's affectionate leaning toward his devotees is concerned, he is so magnanimous that he can give himself to his devotees. He is ready to perish to give. I was remembering the part that I was just listening to a lecture where Guru Maharaj, Radhanath Swami Guru Maharaj, he actually explains. He says that a Vaishnava should be like a salt. The salt is ready to be. It loses its identity to give taste to the particular, to give flavor to a particular preparation. So a Vaishnava shouldn't think that I need recognition. So looking at these, it starts with Krishna. He doesn't mind that he not be recognized, but his devotees have to be recognized. Now, after revealing his pleasure at seeing Vaishnavas and Brahmanas fed, the Lord declared, "If I can take the dust of the feet of Vaishnavas on my head, who will refuse to do the same?" So Srila Prabhupada explains the conclusion one should reach after hearing the above statement. If one can feed a Brahmana or Vaishnava, it is better than performing hundreds of thousands of sacrifice. In this age, therefore, it is recommended that Harer Nama, the chanting of the holy name of the God, and pleasing the Vaishnavas are the only means to elevate oneself. Now, this is basically mentioned in the purport of 8, and expressing the natural love he felt for his servants. So this basically makes it so clear. So, of course, towards the end of the 12, he says that servants of mine may return to my presence soon, and time of their exile from my abode may expire before long. He says that I know they have made a mistake, they have to be gone, but these servants, the Jaya Vijaya, has transgressed against you, and you not knowing the mind of their masters. Now I shall therefore deem it favor done to me if you order that, although reaping the fruit of their transgression, they may return to my presence soon. And the time of their exile is actually going to expire very fast. So that's the main part from 1 to 12, more important points. From text 13 to 25, the four Kumaras remain submissive. They have committed a mistake and they are remaining submissive. So Brahma continued, even though the sages had been bitten by the serpent of anger, their souls were not satiated with hearing the Lord's lovely and illuminating speech, which was like a series of Vedic hymns. So on hearing the Lord's words, which were both sweet and profound, it was just sweet and also profound, the Kumaras found that they could not understand whether the Lord was pleased or displeased with them, because they were concerned. They came to see Lord, and so they're not very clear. Srila Prabhupada expresses their mind. The sages tried and wide-opened ears to understand the words from the lips of the Supreme Lord, but although his speech was very concise and meaningful, the sages could not completely comprehend what he was saying. They could not even comprehend the purport of speech or what the Supreme Lord wanted to do, nor could they understand whether the Lord was angry or pleased with them. They were very concerned. They were very concerned whether the Lord is actually happy with them or, unhappy with them. But despite being almost too puzzled to speak, the sages' hair stood on end in ecstasy. They expressed their confusion. They actually told the Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are unable to know what you intend for us to do, for even though you are the Supreme Ruler of all, you speak in our favor as if we had done something good for you. So they are asking, they want to make things clear. They're saying that we don't understand, whether, you are the Supreme Person and you're talking in such a way that you are actually favoring us. So they're not sure whether they did right or wrong. The Kumara stated that the Lord teaches by his humble words that everyone should honor Brahmanas. So here Krishna, Lord Narayana is acting. So he's actually trying to show that he actually honors the Brahmanas. You yourself are the supreme objective of religious principle. You are eternally inexhaustible and unchangeable. Your words and acts protect your religion. Everyone, both mystics and the transcendentalists, depend on your mercy to cross beyond the ocean of ignorance. Clearly, no one is in a position to bestow their favor on you. So they are praising the Lord, and they're saying that, it's such a hard thing to get favor. Now we are here, but we want to make sure whether they have actually pleased him or not. Then the Kumaras poetically glorified the Lord's unique, independent position. They were saying that the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, the dust of whose feet is worn on the head by others, awaits upon you as appointed, for she is anxious to secure a place in the abode of the King of Beasts. Now, who hovers on the fresh wreath of tulsi leaves offered at your lotus feet by some blessed devotee? So Srila Prabhupada empathizes the Lord's unequal position in this purport. Now, this is the purport for the text 20. So he actually emphasizes this particular thing. As previously described, Tulsi has attained all superior qualities. She's attained the superior qualities due to her being placed at the lotus feet of the Lord. The comparison made here is very nice. It's absolutely beautiful. He says, as the king of bees hovers over the Tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, so Lakshmi, the goddess who is sought by the demigods, Brahmanas, Vaishnavas, and everyone else, always engages in rendering service to the Lord, to the lotus feet of the Lord. So basically the conclusion is that no one can be the benefactor of the Lord. Everyone is actually the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. So the Kumaras next expressed wonder of the supremely independent Lord's humble action and words. They are, it's very difficult for a person who's meeting Narayana for the first time, and Narayana says, yes, what he's doing is right, and all fault is on me. And they're thinking he's the supreme person, and now he's so humble in his action and words. So they are very, you are very attached to the activities of your pure devotees. Yet you are never attached to the goddess of fortune who constantly serves you with loving devotion. How can you be purified? So he asks a question. He says, How can you be purified, therefore, by the dust of the path traversed by the Brahmanas? And how can you be glorified or made fortunate by the marks of Srivatsa on your chest? So they have all these questions. So just going over the main points here, he says that the four Brahmana sages are extremely delighted. They are extremely delighted to behold him, and they experienced a thrill throughout their bodies. They spoke to the Lord, who have revealed, Krishna's glories are unlimited, multi-glories. Through his, we have to understand, if you're not under the protection of Yogamaya, you have to be under the protection of Mahamaya. Even though a person thinks he's independent, he's absolutely dependent on Krishna. So the sages are asking, we are unable to know what you intend for us to do. For even though you are the supreme ruler, you speak in our favor. They're confused. They're saying, what are we supposed to do? You're the supreme director of the Brahmanical culture. And he says that you're considering the Brahmanas to be the highest position. Is your example for teaching others? I mean, you're mentioning this because you have to teach others. Actually, you are the supreme worshipable deity, not only for the gods, but for the Brahmanas also. You're the source of eternal occupation of all the living entities. So then he, so continues to talk about everybody, the transcendentalist, the mystic, Lakshmi Devi, everybody is a servitor of you. So they're asking towards the 21st thing. He says, "Oh Lord, you're exceedingly attached to the activities of your pure devotees. You're never attached to the goddess of fortune. Why is it?" And then they ask these questions, like, how can you be purified, therefore, by the dust of the path traversed by Brahmanas? How can you be glorified or are made fortunate by the marks of Srivatsa on your chest? So they have these questions. So he says, "Oh Lord, you're the personification of religion. Therefore, you manifest yourself in the 3 millenniums. And thus, you protect this universe, which consists of animate and inanimate beings. By your grace, which is of pure goodness and is the bestower of all blessings, kindly drive away the elements of Rajas and Tamas for the sake of demigods and the twice born." So they're requesting, they're praying that please take away this from us. So I had a couple points from the purport in this. The Lord is actually addressed in this particular verse as Tri Yuga, or one who appears in the 3 millenniums, namely Satya, Dwapara and Treta. He's not mentioned as appearing in the 4th millennium or Kali Yuga. Now it is described in the Vedic literature that in Kali Yuga he comes as Channavatara, or an incarnation, but he does not appear as a manifest incarnation. Now in other yugas that we know that Lord is manifested as an incarnation. Therefore, he is addressed as Tri Yuga, or the Lord who appears in 3 yugas. Now, Sridhar Swami describes this very nicely. He says, Yuga means couple, 3 means 3, like number 3. The Lord is manifest as 3 couples for his 6 opulence, or 3 couple of opulence. In that way, he is addressed as Tri Yuga. The Lord is a personality of religious principles. Now, in the 3 millennium of religious principles are protected by 3 kinds of spiritual culture, namely austerity, cleanliness, and mercy. The Lord is called Tri Yuga in that way also. So Sridhar Swami explains this very nicely, what all are the meaning of the Tri Yuga, the word Tri Yuga as such. Now he also gives one more example. He says, in the age of Kali, these 3 requisites to spiritual culture are almost absent, but the Lord is so kind. In spite of the Kali Yugas being devoid of these 3 spiritual qualities, he comes and protects the people of the age as Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is Channa. He is covered because although he is Krishna himself, he presents himself as a devotee of Krishna, not directly Krishna. The devotees pray to Lord Chaitanya, therefore, to eliminate the stock of passion and ignorance, the most conspicuous assets of this yuga. In Krishna conscious movement, actually, one cleanses himself of the modes of passion. So just, as we know, it is said that we can get everything off. The first shloka of Shikshashtakam explains Cheto Darpanam Arjanam. So we can actually clear the mirror of dust accumulated for millions of years just by chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So the 4 Kumaras are actually cognizant. They know that there is a situation like this. So in the modes of passion and ignorance, because although in Vaikuntha, they wanted to curse devotees of the Lord. Since they were conscious of their own weakness, they prayed to the Lord to remove their still existing passion and ignorance. The three transcendental qualities, cleanliness, austerity, and mercy, are the qualification of twice born, the Brahmanas and the demigods. So they are requesting that that should be taken off. So these are some important points from that particular purport. Now, continuing with that, then he says, witnessing the Lord's humility and submission, the Kumaras again rejected their curse as rash. Now they are realizing it more and more. They are again saying that our curse was so rash. O Lord, whatever punishment you wish to award to these two innocent persons, or also to us, we shall accept without duplicity. We understand that we have cursed two faultless person. They're saying that I know we have committed, we have realized that the Kumaras realized that they had made a grave mistake. They shouldn't have committed this mistake. Now, Srila Prabhupada describes the care with which we should deal with devotees. He reiterates again and again the care that we should take care when we are dealing with devotees. In general, when dealing with devotees, we should not try to find faults. That's a very important thing. Now, of course, in Bhagavad Gita, we know that as it is confirmed that the devotees who faithfully serve the Supreme Lord, even if found to commit a gross mistake, should be considered a sadhu or a saintly person. Due to former habits, he might have committed something wrong, but because he is engaged in the service of the Lord, that wrong should not be taken very seriously. Now, this is from the purport of the 25th verse. Now, what is mentioned in text 26 to 34? Who was actually at fault, the gatekeepers or the four Kumaras? So let's get to know who was actually at the fault. From the text, the 26 to 34, this is what is mentioned. The Lord replies, he says, O Brahmanas, know that punishment you inflicted on them was originally ordained by me, and therefore they will fall to a birth in a demonic family. But they will be firmly united with me in thought, with mental concentration intensified by anger, and they will return to my presence shortly. So here we get to know Krishna is the cause of all causes. So he's slowly revealing who is behind this whole thing. The gatekeepers, the Kumaras, and the Lord himself each took the blame of the curse uttered by the Kumaras. We understand that from the previous verses. Now, after being cursed, Jaya and Vijaya thought themselves in error and liable for punishment. They asked only that they never forget the Lord. They say that we have committed this mistake, but we should never forget you. We don't want to forget you. Similarly, after seeing the Lord and hearing of this dedication to his devotees, the Kumaras understood the supremacy of the devotional service. Then they viewed themselves at fault. Now they realize that Krishna, Lord Narayana, is talking about Jaya and Vijaya. They should be great people. So we have done this rashly and it's our fault. So, and then they say that we are liable for punishment. Like Jaya and Vijaya, they requested that even if they were sent to hell, they would remain ever able to serve the Lord with their heart and mind. It says that it doesn't matter whether you're sending us to hell or anywhere, but we should always be thinking of you. Lord Narayana also took the responsibility for his devotees, great gatekeepers, as we know from the 4th verse. Now the Lord reveals the truth. This entire episode was a pastime of the Lord. He had preordained, he had decided this entirely. Therefore, Jaya and Vijaya will fall to a birth in a demonic family, he says. But they will be firmly united with me. He also says they will be firmly united with me in thought through mental concentration intensified by anger. So, and they will also come back to me soon. Now, Prabhupada gives an extensive explanation of the Lord's purpose in arranging the cursing of Jaya Vijaya. This is a very beautiful explanation. The Lord stated that punishment inflicted by the sages upon the doorkeepers, Jaya Vijaya, was conceived by the Lord himself. Now, without the Lord's sanction, nothing can happen. Not even a blade of grass can move. It is to be understood that there was a plan in the cursing of Lord's devotees in Vaikuntha, and his plan is explained by many stalwart authorities. The Lord sometimes desires to fight. The fighting spirit also exists in the Supreme Lord, otherwise he could be fighting. Otherwise, how could fighting be manifest at all? So anything is happening because the Lord wants that to happen. So it makes it very clear, Prabhupada reiterates, there's nothing can happen without Krishna's will. He has to find an enemy, but in Vaikuntha world, there is no enemy because everyone is engaged fully in his service. Therefore, he sometimes comes to the material world as an incarnation in order to manifest his fighting spirit. Now, thus Vijaya and Jaya were selected by the Lord to fight with him in the material world. That was the reason the sages came to see him, and accidentally the doorkeepers were cursed. So it makes it very clear. Therefore, the sages, experiencing the delight of contemplating Lord Narayana's supreme position, understanding the position of his devotees and the spiritual world, circumambulated the Lord. The sages circumambulated the Lord, offered their obeisances and returned, extremely delighted at the learning of the divine opulence of the Vaishnavas. Now, in the verse before, Lord Brahma actually mentions that after seeing the Lord of Vaikuntha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in self-illuminated Vaikuntha planet, the sages left the transcendental abode. They realized that all these things were actually a pastime of the Lord. The Lord then said, after they left, the Lord then said to his attendants, Jaya and Vijaya, depart this place, but do not fear. All glories unto you. Though I am capable of nullifying the Brahmana's curse, I would not do so. On the contrary, it's my approval. He says, it's my approval. I want you to go, because he wants to go back and show his part of he wants to enjoy the pastime with them in the material world. Now, this departure from Vaikuntha was foretold by Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. She was very angry because when she left my abode and then returned, you stopped her at the gate while I was sleeping. Now, he is actually, there's a little more revelation here. In the 30th verse, he says, this departure from Vaikuntha was foretold by Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. She was very angry because when she left my abode and then returned, you stopped her at the gate while I was sleeping. So these are all some inconceivable pastimes of the Lord, which it's very hard for a mundane person like me to understand. But again, the Lord assures that certain things are we understand that everything that happens is because of Krishna's sanction. So the Lord assured the two Vaikuntha inhabitants, Jaya and Vijaya, by practicing the mystic yoga system in anger, you will be cleansed of the sin of disobeying the Brahmanas, and within a short time return to me. So here the Supreme Personality of Godhead advised both his people. He said, by the dint of bhakti yoga in anger, that they would be delivered by the curse of the Brahmanas. Sri Madhava Muni remarks in this connection that by practicing bhakti yoga, one can become free from all sinful reactions. So he basically explains that even a Brahmana sapa, or any shapa or a curse by a Brahmana, which cannot be overcome by any other means, can be overcome by bhakti yoga. So this is a very important point. Any kind of curse can be overcome by a bhakti yogi, because he can do that. He does that. One can practice bhakti yogi in many rasas, and basically there are 12 rasas. There are 5 primary and 7 secondary. So I'll just go in short about that. The 5 primary rasas constitute direct bhakti yoga, but although the 7 secondary rasas are indirect, they are also counted into bhakti yoga, and if they are used in the service of the Lord. In other words, bhakti yoga in all inclusive. If someone somehow or other someone becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he basically becomes a bhakti yogi, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, Kamam Krodham Bhayam. The gopis were actually attracted to Krishna by bhakti yoga in a relationship of lusty desire, kama. Similarly, Kamsa was attached to bhakti yoga by the dint of fear of his death. This bhakti yoga is so powerful that even becoming an enemy of the Lord and always thinking of him can deliver one very quickly. So it is said in Vishnu Bhakta Smrita Devo Asurastat Vipanyaha. Devotees of Lord Vishnu are called demigods, whereas non-devotees are called asuras. But bhakti yoga is so powerful that both demigods and asuras can derive its benefit if they always think of the Lord. So that's the greatest, as we also read from Bhagavad Gita, the 65th verse of 18th chapter, Manmanabhava Madbhakta. So that means always thinking of me. It doesn't matter which way one thinks. The very thought of the Supreme Lord is the basic principle of Bhakti Yoga. Now, Krishna Prabhupada also mentions that in material planets there are different grades of sinful activities, of which disrespecting Brahmanas or Vaishnava is the most sinful. It is here he clearly says that's the most sinful thing that could be done. So it is clearly stated that one can overcome even that grave sin simply by thinking of Vishnu, not even favorable, but in anger. That's just amazing. Even in anger, if a person thinks, he's still a bhakti yogi. There's even if those who are not devotees always think of Vishnu, they become free from all sinful activities. Krishna consciousness is the highest form of thought. So the best thing that a person can do is keep chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now from the text 35 to 37, Brahma's concluding words to add to the demigods. So we're getting back to the conclusion of the chapter and this conversation that had happened. Now what's happening is by narrating how Narayana allowed the 4 Kumaras to curse his 2 doorkeepers, Brahma revealed to the demigods the history of Diti's sons. So we are continuing with our story. We know that Diti got pregnant during the evening and everybody knew that she was going to have demonic kids. Now this is all arranged by the Lord. So the history of Diti's sons, the 2 had originated in Vaikuntha basically. So therefore, even though they were still in the womb of their mother, they almost, there was so much unlimited power rendered them capable causing the darkness that is encompassing the entire universe. So he basically concluded, he says, there is no remedy within my power, however, for it is the Lord himself who desires to do all this. You've come and asked me, this something like this is happening and I need to protect you. He says, I have nothing in my control. That most ancient person, the Supreme Lord, will alone come to our rescue. What purpose can we serve on his behalf by deliberating on this subject? He says, we shouldn't be deliberating, we shouldn't be thinking about this. We will just wait, because this is the Lord's mission. Dravijaya fell from the Lord's abode. A great roar of disappointment arose from all the demigods who were sitting in their splendid aeroplanes. Now Lord Brahma says it is the prowess of these 2 twin asuras, the demons, that has disturbed everybody who's living in this universe, for it has minimized everybody else's power. So there's no remedy within my power. However, for it is Lord's desire. So he says, I don't have power either. So he says, my dear sons, the Lord is the controller of all the 3 modes of nature and responsible for the creation, preservation and dissolution of the universe. So he says that, so there's nothing, his wonderful creative power, Yogamaya, cannot be easily understood even by the masters of yoga. That most ancient person, the personality of Godhead, will alone come to our rescue. And he says, what is the purpose of us deliberating on it? So I'd like to stop there, and I'm really sorry. I haven't really prepared for this class at all. And I just went over basic verses, and I know I would have committed many mistakes. And thank you so much, and please add on. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sukeshwari Mataji, for the nice class. You went over pretty systematically, and I would like to welcome all the esteemed devotees to the next semester of the Bhakti Vaibhava. Kandarvika Mataji, Rasika Shiromani Mataji, Sukeshwari Mataji, Sri Gopal Prabhu, Sri Govinda Prabhu, Sundaranand Prabhu. Please welcome, and any questions? We can take questions or any realizations. How is everybody doing on the schedule in terms of going to the Rath Yatra festival? We are okay. We have time, right? So we still have about, I think, half an hour or so to answer question and answers. So Mataji, you can go ahead and.
Dandavad Pranam Subhu, can you hear me?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Yeah, wonderful class, Sukeshwari Mataji. I didn't even feel that you didn't prepare, so it was well prepared actually. And I was just thinking while reading this chapter, how it's sometimes things go out of control, even if you take utmost care, right? See, the doorkeepers, they stopped Lakshmi, but they may have performed only their duty, but sometimes you cannot enter into the heart of a devotee and find what his intentions are. but you just follow what is said to you, but then it ends up in an offense, and you end up like suffering the reaction for that. So if that happens to the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, what is our hope? So I was just, if you could enlighten on those lines, how do we really avoid that type of things?
Thank you.
Thank you.
As I mentioned, the time is very limited, but I was just thinking about it. Okay, I can hear some.
Gandharika Mataji, may I have
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So I was thinking that my mind also sometimes puts these things that if doorkeepers who are always serving Lord can get into something like that, what about me? But again, I was sitting down to think that I have to be very careful. Sometimes it could be my mind's concoction, because the doorkeepers were pure devotees and they were serving the Lord directly. So Lord is always going to be protecting them. But I have used my free will and I've come here. So when I do things, Krishna will protect me, of course. But I have my independence also. I'm trying to use my independence, and sometimes I feel, oh, you know what? Actually, Krishna is all the cause of all causes, and because of that, I'm actually not doing. My mind also puts me in a situation like that. So, as Prabhupada said, it's always nice to keep away from anything like how Krishna can. I mean, I just couldn't imagine while I was reading this that he's saying that it's his mistake. Whatever goes wrong. Sometimes, while I'm dealing with Vaishnava, sometimes my mind does say it's not my mistake, I'm all good, and the other person is wrong. So, reading this chapter, I realized that I should think that whatever goes wrong, it's only my mistake. If I'm in that mood, I'm thinking automatically, I will, there's no chance of committing any mistake. So I could change things in such a way that the person can correct himself, even if he or she is at mistake. So, this is what I was thinking, Madhuri. I had the same thing in my mind. I think I personally have to be careful about whether it's my mind's play or whether it is really that somebody else is making, I hope I answered your question, Mataji. I don't know if that's what you were trying to ask.
Nice viewpoint, Mataji. That I think that's what Ramana Swami says, like before pointing to others, 3 fingers are pointing towards you. But I think it's a little hard. Sometimes you have to just, things come upon you by Krishna's will, no matter how much ever efforts that we take to avoid things accordingly. And I think we should also be ready to comply with that will, which is for a higher purpose.
Yeah, yes, Mataji. It's very hard. Very, very hard. And there are times very hard to myself. My mind would say, no, you're absolutely right. So yeah, it's not easy. I think it's just more practice.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji.
And just to add to Sukeshwari Mataji.
Yes, please, Prabhu.
A couple of things. Gandharika, there is always a big echo when it's sorry, but there is something that overlapping in your, anyway. Yeah, thank you. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that every endeavor is covered with some fault, and and it's better to perform one's own occupational duties than others, even though there is some fault in one's own duty, which means that there will definitely be a scope to commit mistake because of the faults in one's own dharma. Now that is on a material level, and the other aspect we should imagine is that there are 5 causes of action, as we learned in Bhagavad Gita. And so combining these two, if you see that it's impossible to actually perform an action and not have some fault in it. So the best thing is to do one's action, but at the same time depend on Krishna for the success of that particular action. And the failure or success is given by Krishna, but we do our activities. So Sukeshwari Mataji, the only, I mean, you made a nice point, but one point which had little concern was that if there is a mistake in the in my duty, and I take it to be 100% my fault, might be, might not be also. It could be sometimes things went so awry that it was not your fault. It just boomerang one after another. And even in the, again on the term of action, Krishna says in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, even the intelligence of the Kavi, they fail to understand what action is, what inaction is, and what forbidden action is. So combining all these statements, we see that it's not a black and white issue as far as this goes. Now that's on the material plane, but on the spiritual plane, this was clearly, as you said, this was the Lord's plan that Jay and Vijay, Vishnu wanted to fight, and then in Jay and Vijay, that is one definite reason that why he came. But if we can see the overall analysis of the chapter, how many purposes did Lord serve by this one action in this? If you can see that his desire to fight solved, check. His Lakshmi pacified, yes, check. Kumara's pacified, check. And then so everything he orchestrated this drama so beautifully. Did the Lord show his magnanimity? Check. Did he highlight the importance of brahmanas? Check. Did he show the management technique of the master taking the blame for the servant? Check. So many things are covered by Lord Vishnu's just one intervention. So that's my understanding. Is that a good enough answer, Mataji?
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for adding.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Rasika Mataji, Govincharan Prabhu, any questions or any comments for Sukeshwari Mataji?
Thank you, Mataji, for a wonderful class, and thank you, Shivas Prabhu, for the last point you added. I was thinking of the same. It's despite our best action, sometimes we don't understand the outcome always. So better not to, it's much easier to accept that we can't understand rather than brood over it or try to always change things to make our outcome happen. Like that's where the concept of duty is so critical. As long as we are doing our duty, and we can only serve the Lord and just be able to accept whatever we have to come through.
Govincharan Prabhu, your voice is a little low, Prabhu. Sorry, little low.
We just have to go through the whatever happens as a result of it. No, but the one very good thing is that whatever it is, the Lord is doing the right thing for us. As you said, in all these cases, so many things where Lord achieved so many things, so He may use one as an instrument to achieve whatever His goals are. So as long as we are doing the best in our part, then we can be completely safe, knowing that the Lord is protecting us, and even if it's a lesson we have to learn, the Lord is giving us the lesson. Even if we have some difficulty we have to go through, everything is happening properly as long as we do our part. So that's been a very nice lesson. Yeah, and the verses were so lovely, like how the Lord takes responsibility for the action and says, I can even cut off my arm. That's like, so sweet, and shows, his extreme magnanimity, and also the approach he takes to pacify the Brahmanas. That's, like instead of directly dealing with the issue, he starts off with like glorifying them to the point that they were confused as to what is the Lord trying to achieve.
And the Kumaras must have thought, okay, we have all our arguments lined up in case the Lord demands, and then we will have a court case ready, all the documents are ready. And here the Lord comes, no, 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 you are right, and then they completely are deflated. What did we do wrong here?
Yeah, this is like such a best this thing on conflict resolution. How to our spiritual master always thinks. I mean, he says diplomacy means to cool things down, not heat things up. So you can see the Lord's example in that, like how he cools things down rather than aggravate. I mean, this is a great lesson we have to learn. So those were my thoughts. Thank you, Mataji, for the wonderful class.
Thank you, Prabhu. And I was just remembering that, all the Trinadapi verses that we go on, Krishna is actually following that in this. We're talking about devotees, but yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Sukeshwari Mataji. As Gandharvika Mataji said, it didn't look like that you didn't prepare. It was very nice. Thank you so much, for your class. I was just thinking when we, read in a purport that, once for people in Vaikuntha, even if they commit offenses, the Lord gives protection. So this shows, like, I was thinking what a high bar it is to go back. They say, right? When you say when you go back to Godhead, then the Lord takes protection for you. The Lord takes care of you, even to the point of, like, asking forgiveness for the offenses. So it's not a cheap thing to go back to Godhead. We have to become so purified, so qualified, and then only we can go back to the spiritual world, because there the Lord does all these things for us. So in our current situation, it's such a hard thing. That's what I was reflecting, Mataji. I don't have any particular question. It was very nice to hear all the purports. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. And I have to be truthful, I had really not prepared. Yeah, of course, I had the textbook and Gurujana Prabhu's book, and so that really helped me. Krishna is very merciful. Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Shri Gopal Prabhu.
Haribo.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Again, as everyone said, it is very nice presentation. One thing, one comment was, here all the parties, like, the sages, the Jai Vijay, and the Lord Himself, they are accepting their fault. He says, everyone is saying, I have committed a mistake. Sages are saying, this is my mistake. We have cursed, and Jai Vijay is saying, it's, we should not have stopped the pure devotees. And Lord Himself is also saying that it is my mistake. All this happened, and as we see this, that because of this, there is no, conflict in the way that it is resolved. The conflict is resolved. There is no. It says that this is, I am right. Everyone. So when there is a conflict, everyone tries to prove their point and say that I am right, and that's where the conflict comes. And here, everyone is saying it's my mistake, and obviously there is no conflict. So that's what thought came to my mind. It's very nice way of a very nice lesson to learn from this chapter. And thank you so much. It was very nice.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice point. Conflict arises only when everybody says it's mine. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Govindata Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you very much for nice presentation. Again, I also felt like you prepared so nicely. I didn't see like you didn't prepare, but it was so nicely systematic presentation. And good to see Shivas Pandit Prabhu back from India taking the session. I hope you're doing well, Prabhuji. We missed you in Janmashtami. Thank you very much for.
I missed ISC also. Thank you. And we're doing fine.
Well, I think he's still in India, Prabhu.
Yeah, I'm not back.
I mean, association.
Yeah.
So this is very nice lesson, Mataji. Like, I think one thing I'm trying to understand is the in the curse, the Lord is telling that by practicing the mystic yoga system in anger, you will be cleansed of the sin of disobeying the Brahmanas. So like we covered, like bhakti means like one should be favorable to the Lord. Anukule Krishna no Silinam Bhakti Ruchate. So like Kansa was like remembering Krishna, but that is not considered as bhakti. So how come like one is cleansed of the sins when one is remembering the Lord in anger? Maybe you can elaborate on that one.
Very nice question, Prabhu. I don't know if I have a very nice answer. And I was also thinking at that point, and here, it's Krishna's pastime that Jaya Vijaya had to leave, and that's what I was thinking in this regard. But as you're saying that, because I really don't know the past or the later lives of Kamsa or other people, but we know that Putana also attained to the Lord's realm, and we've had this conversation before, a little confusion about whether Jaya Vijaya later in Bhagavatam when we read whether they actually, I mean, they have to have gone back to Vaikuntha. There's no doubt that they didn't go back. But when we read the purports, it does look like they attained impersonalism and then attained personalism, something like that. So I have also had this confusion a little bit about some of these demons, because we know the demons, when they think about Krishna, they're thinking in the form of enmity or anger, not in a not in a very liking way. That they don't like Lord and they think about Lord, but they unlike Lord and think about Him. So, but in these purports, it does mention that is also Bhakti Yoga. I don't have an exact answer to your question, Prabhu. I'm also a little. Somebody is actually. Though she says the purport answers that question. It's the Bhakti Yoga 12 rasas, as Srila Prabhupada explains. So, Prabhu, can you elaborate on that? Yeah, there are 12 rasas. And
Right. So
yes, Prabhu.
as Sundar Prabhu so kindly pointed out, there are 5 main rasas and then 7 secondary rasas. The 7 secondary rasas is to ghastliness, wonderment, laughing, chivalry, Raudra, which is anger. So in that sense, it's Bhakti Yoga, as Sundaranand Prabhu pointed out. And here is the basic requirement. They have to come back in 3 lifetimes, and they are going to take a birth in demoniac family. Where is the chance for them to execute Krishna consciousness favorable to the Lord, because they are already in a demoniac family. Now the other consideration, if we see, is they have to be born in a demoniac family because the Lord wants them to fight. If they are born in a devotee family, and then the Lord says, "Come fight with me," they neither have the strength nor the willpower to fight. Imagine if they are born in a Brahmana family and Lord Vishnu says, "Come fight with me," you will take out the Aarti plate and start worshipping him. But then they are born in a demoniac family. And then the Lord says, "Think of me," and it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll find the exact words, that in whatever way you think of Krishna, there you will achieve that. The gopis, it's there in 7th canto, 1st chapter, I guess, where through they achieve the Kamsa Dvesha Bhayat. I don't remember that verse. The gopis achieved through lust, Kamsa achieved through anger. So the point here is that in whatever way one approaches Krishna or thinks of Krishna, one is purified. So going to does that little bit answer the exigency of three births plus how they are thinking of Krishna purified their curse given by Brahmanas?
Yes, for you. That definitely answers. In Brahma Samhita also there is a word, similar words. It says Kama, Krodha, Yam,
Right.
Krodha, Oha.
Perfect. Yeah. Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadhibhiti. Right.
Vatsalya, Moha, Guru.
Vatsalya, Moha, Guru, Gaurava, Seria. Perfect. Good words. Good point, Prabhuji. In whatever way. So
Does it mean like sometimes we can also think about Krishna in anger? anger and other things.
Well, you can take that chance, but the result may not always come out right. The way
Okay.
because here Vishnu himself ordained that you think about me like this, even though you're a demon, you think about me like this, and then you will come back to me.
I see. Okay, so this is like sanctioned by Krishna himself. That's why they're
Right. Because otherwise, it can go really wrong real soon.
this way. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Sukeshi Mataji. It was very nice presentation. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sri Govinda Prabhu.
Thank you,
Nice to
Prabhu. I just saw a link sent by Sundaran Prabhu. It's the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st chapter, 26th verse. It says,
excellent.
therefore, by enmity or by devotional service, by fear, by affection, or by lusty desire, by all these, or any of them, if a conditioned soul somehow or the other concentrates his mind upon the Lord, the result is the same. For the Lord, because of his blissful position, is never affected by enmity or friendship. So, but then Prabhupada also mentions in the purport, he says, from this verse, one should not conclude that Krishna is unaffected by the favorable prayers or unfavorable blasphemy. One should therefore blaspheme. One should therefore blaspheme the Supreme Lord. This is not the regulator principle. Bhakti Yoga means anukulyena Krishnanushiranam. One should serve Krishna very favorably. This is the real injunction. Here it is said that although an enemy thinks of Krishna unfavorably, the Lord is unaffected by such anti-devotional service. Thus he offers his benedictions even to Shishupala and similarly inimical conditioned souls. This does not mean, however, that one should be inimical toward the Lord. The stress is given to the favorable execution of devotional service. Prabhu, there's so much more in it, but actually that makes it very clear, I think.
And I think the specific word, thank you, Sundaran Prabhu, that specific words we are looking for was the 31st in the same chapter. If you look at the 31st verse, it's Gopya Kamat Bhayat Kamso. So it's there. You can look it up. Let's not. I mean, to kind of, in the interest of time, we can just move ahead. So.
Thank you, Prabhu. We'll look at that. Sundaran Prabhu, thank you for the links and the thing, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji, for the nice class. It was, nicely explained. One, question or comment I had is that, of course, we understand, it's a long pastime to enact this whole Leela, but at the end, you can see that demigods and Lord Brahma are pretty helpless in their position to whatever is going to come now, actually, in terms of the activities of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Even though it's a Lord's plan, it's difficult to understand that the principle of religion and of course, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu tormented. They broke the temples, and I mean they pretty much created havoc in all the three worlds, and created untold suffering, and to probably to devotees and to transcendentalists and to people who are following the cause of dharma. So that is a little bit paradoxical in the sense that but I guess it has to be understood that it is the plan of the Lord, and it has to be accepted in that way, I guess. Like how Srila Prabhupada, I think, explains in the last I think the last verse or the verse previous to it, like he explains the reversals. I think Brahma himself says, what can we do? What is the purpose of deliberating on this subject? Then Prabhupada gives the example of Pandavas and Haridas Thakur and all these great devotees who went through so many reversals, and there's no point deliberating on this. But I was just thinking about this point that even though it has a lot of, as Srivas Prabhu very nicely explained about how um, so many things are with one action, the Lord is actually completing so many uh, uh, he's fulfilling so many aspects in the incident. um, but now the whole world has to go through the turmoil of what I guess is the launch plan. There is, as Lord Brahma said, there is no point deliberating on it. But if you have anybody has any comments, I can add it.
Yeah, I see Prabhu added, Prabhuji. I had a comment. I'll first read what, I think it's Rasika Mataji or Govind Prabhu, I don't know. Yes, it is in the purport of the last verse. The Bhagavatam's conclusion is that the devotee is never disturbed by such reverses. He accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of Lord. And I was just thinking about it in the purports that we just read in this chapter. For Krishna, favorable, unfavorable, it's all fun as such. He enjoys it's the pastime of Krishna. So for a pure devotee, similarly, it doesn't matter whether things are good or bad. They just take it as a grace of the Lord. That's what I was just going to say to them. So yeah.
Well, it's fun for him.
Sundar, so your question was, in this whole plan, there are some people who are affected who are not part of that plan. Is that what your question?
No, mine is not exactly a question, but a rhetorical kind of. Just
observation.
Yeah, observation, and it's a dialogue that I was just having. That even though he's the cause of, Krishna says that he comes when there is a dip in religion, and he yada yada hi dharmasya glane bhavati bharata. And then of course he arranges all these things to bring about chaos, and also to bring condition back to. But I guess the as I think the last purport answered the question. It's just the Lord's plan, and I think devotees have to submit to that.
The other thing, the other thing, Sundaran Prabhu, is that this chapter also shows who is dearer to the Lord, who is much more closer to the Lord versus who is not. So Lakshmi Devi was stopped by Jai Vijay. He said to Lakshmi Devi, "You not just neglect them. You are close to me, so she'll follow immediately whatever he says." So he didn't say anything. Nothing happened. Even though they dared to stop Lakshmi Devi herself, they were not affected because Lord didn't say anything. But next time, and then when Kumaras came, he just treated them as guests, as completely like so much of formalities and so much of honor and prestige. And then they got confused, like are we did the right thing or wrong thing? Is Lord praising us or criticizing us? He's acting as if he is taking our side. And then the Jay and Vijay are intermediary. He said, I need you for some other purpose. You go as take birth as demoniac families. I'll fight with you. So I think the only personality who is unscathed in all these drama is Lakshmi Devi right now. She's. But in any case, it just shows. So this chapter gives so many aspects to the Lord's personality and how he dealt with it. But he plays the game, Sundarananda Prabhu. He says that sometimes he says, I won't, I'll just be, away, and then no, sometimes he'll fully come, put everything in place, and he just says, this is my thing and I want it this way. That's it. That will happen. The way it happens, nobody can even perceive it happened because of Lord's will.
Yeah, Mukund Prabhu, sometimes, he nicely puts it as, he's the independent autocrat, actually.
What's that?
He's the independent autocrat.
Yep.
I also had a comment, Prabhu. I was thinking that sometimes the more we read about Srimad Bhagavatam, the more entire picture we understand. It's like
right.
You touch the one part and you think that the elephant is like a trunk and like a tail. But when we read more and more as you're taking off in the helicopter or a rocket, you will see the whole Earth planet as a dot. So I'm just trying to understand in that perspective that when we read this maybe 5-6 times the same chapter, maybe we will get a different scenario to understand.
Wonderful, Sundarananda Prabhu. Wonderful, nice points you make.
A couple of comments to add to Sundar's point is one is all the chaos that happens as a result of this. That's kind of the backdrop for the Narshinga or the Boar incarnation to happen. Otherwise, if everything is calm and quiet, and what's the use of Lord's incarnation? So it's like that's a benefit they are getting for going through all the chaos, is that darshan of the Lord, and just like atrocities of Kamsa is what prompted Krishna to come. Devaki, Vasudeva, they went so much trouble, but they're all actually that's why one time Gopit Paranadhana Prabhu, when he was giving lecture, he was saying actually the devotees, even though they are in this world, they are not affected by any of those troubles, because for them missing the Lord is the greatest trouble. So everything else actually doesn't matter to them. So they are not affected by it. So the Lord doesn't come for protecting them from the demons, but He comes just to give them joy. So like that. So that's one thing. The other thing is also, as Shivas Prabhu said, this is the true nature of the Lord. So this is what we actually pray when we say Ashli Shiva Padaratam. We are ready. We say that we are ready to accept anything the Lord does. So in one sense, Bhagavatam is really preparing us. Do you really want to worship such a Lord? He can do anything like this. So it's like a cautioning us. You can say before you reach the 10th canto, all these things happen. Just double check. And this is what Mukund Prabhu says. You want to be really careful if you really want to surrender to Krishna. You can take it like that too.
One last point I wanted to make was that amongst all the 3 births Jaya and Vijay took, the last birth is one they meditated upon Krishna. Shishpal and Kamsa, they only intensely meditated on Krishna. Kamsa was 24/7 meditating on Krishna, and Shishpal from the time he was insulting Krishna when he was taking birth. Before that, they didn't meditate on Krishna because they fulfilled the pastimes of the Lord Vishnu's desire to fight, both as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha and Ravana and Kumbhakarna. And then in the 3rd birth, it was time to go back to Godhead, so they seriously meditated. That's because, they didn't meditate upon Krishna till that particular point of time. Just a point. Thank you. Wonderful. Vedavit Prabhu, you're there, so please. Thank you, Sundarananda Prabhu. Any other points? Or Vedavit Prabhu can go next. Okay, Vedavit Prabhu.
Prabhu, we can't hear you.
You are muted, Vedavit Prabhu.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. It's a wonderful class and nice realizations from you. I like the points like you said. We should not find faults in devotees, and we have to accept our mistakes, and we should point fingers at us ourselves instead of others. And Gandharik Mataji said, it's difficult sometimes, because if situations are not in our favor, then we generally try to hesitate. Because I was thinking about Bhagavad Gita, we are reading 17th chapter today. It is mentions about austerity of body, austerity of mind, austerity of speech. So austerity of speech consists of speaking truth, beneficial, not hesitating others. Maybe I was thinking I have to practice those things when we are dealing with devotees, because otherwise it's very difficult, because we want to do some service, but for that service, if we don't have required things available, we try to get agitated, or we don't want to do service sometimes. But somehow, if we have to control ourselves, our anger and other things, means we learn from this chapter that even though, either you should be 100% devotee or 100% demon to get the favorable of the Lord. I was thinking when Sundarananda Prabhu making that point, you cannot be like in between, then you don't get, any favor of the Lord. So, and just one more thing I wanted to mention is like how to, it's my doubt how to practice, avoid fault finding in devotees when really, because if you are, I don't know if you are in management or something, you have to correct others. We can even suppose if the management does something wrong, then I don't know how to act on that, how to, because we don't want, because when it is service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if something is lacking as a Vaishnava or devotee, we feel compassionate, and we want to do our best service to the Lord. So in that situation, how to handle and how to correct it, or how to make situations in our favor so that we can continue our services to the Lord.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice question. And I was thinking that, when I started off, I used to always be nice to the devotees, but, I've always been a very tit-for-tat person, my personality. So it used to be with my colleagues, I would differ. And as time went, I was listening to, Maharaj was mentioning in a lecture, he said that as we go, it gets hard. You can have only one personality. As a devotee, you should be nice to even non-devotees, even if they are not, and it's a very difficult task to do, especially when you have colleagues who want to put you down, or who don't want to, but I have no realization. I have very little, I do all wrong usually, but I was thinking that when we think that they are they are affected by something, and then of course, as Prabhuji said about diplomacy, certain times diplomacy really helps. Not that you want to be follow double standard, but diplomacy in a sense, you don't want to hurt them, and you also don't want, because some people don't want to hear you correcting them at all. So you can just be detached. You just do your duty and go away, especially at work. I feel that really helps me. I'm totally detached. I don't put my head into anybody else's affair, and I just do my duty and get off. And if the situation really becomes worse, then I just pray to Krishna that, just take me out of this situation, that's it. And continue to be having the same personality everywhere, so that it doesn't affect my spiritual life. Because when it does affect my spiritual life when I'm a different person outside. So I want to try to be the same person everywhere, and it's very hard. I don't know whether it helps, Prabhu. I'm sure others have better points to add.
Thank you, Mataji. It's really nice that you mentioned. And I like the Srivas Prabhu's points also on all different checks he mentioned about, check this, like especially the management technique by Supreme Lord. That's very nice. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mataji. Thank you, Srivas Prabhu. Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
everybody. Prabhu, I was just going to mention a point. I know I really want to continue more. I have a ride for at 9 that I have to, the kids have to go to Rath Yatra. So I was just thinking that if there are no more points, any point?
Well, I think we can stop here. Thank you so much again. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripasintu